there, and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And this week, both of those categories fits. An interesting person with a topical issue.
Indeed. Happy April 14th, one day before taxes are due.
Can't wait.
I may have to. We are really pleased today to have back Ken Miller, the State Treasurer of the state of Oklahoma. Always a good guest. He's been on several times before. He's going to talk to us about some things that are going on out in his office, some things that are going on in state government, how funding is going, how revenue is coming in, and what the legislature's doing to send it right back out. And he always has a lot of good things to say. We appreciate his time on this busy time of year.
Many states, if not most states, are upside down in their pensions. And we're going to talk about Oklahoma's specific situations today with the State Treasurer. It's coming up on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
When someone looks at me, they looked at the disability before they look at the person.
Nothing builds esteem like having a job and being able to provide for yourself.
At Goodwill, we turn donations and resources into jobs.
There's so much that a person can do with a disability that's beyond our wildest dreams.
The parallel between repurposing things and repurposing people lies in seeing the value.
If you give me a chance, I won't let you down.
The resources that we are now seeing from Chesapeake, which did start with a financial contribution, has grown into other resources. They are willing to have their staff provide time, energy, expertise. Chesapeake opens doors for Goodwill. It is the right example to give to people who are refashioning their lives, and their future is brighter.
I have a doctorate in American Indian Studies and Comparative Cultural and Literary Studies. I focus on Native American arts and especially representations of American Indians. My name is Tracy Morris, and I am an educator, a scholar, and a business owner, and I am Chickasaw. I'm extremely interested in how Natives have been represented in the media and how we represent ourselves in the media. We have a unique opportunity right now with broadband and with new media. It's an open playing field. I do believe that it gives us a power to represent ourselves and a power to change our own destiny. Anybody with a cell phone, with a good phone, and an idea and a computer can go out and make a movie. For the first time, we can represent ourselves. We can tell our own stories, and to be seen for who we are now, not the victims of the past, I think is tremendously exciting. That's where my work lies.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Today we're really pleased to welcome back to the set of The Verdict the Honorable Ken Miller, the State Treasurer of the state of Oklahoma. Ken did his undergraduate work at Lipscomb University, got his MBA at Pepperdine University, and got his Ph.D. in economics at the University of Oklahoma. Ken served 6 years in the Oklahoma House of Representatives, where he chaired the House Appropriations Committee, very important committee, particularly this time of year in the House of Representatives. He was elected State Treasurer in 2010 and has served since that time. His office, under his supervision, manages over $22 billion in state revenue in a given year, and it keeps him pretty busy. But he's got enough time to come see us, tell us what's going on in his office and in the revenue department at the state of Oklahoma. Welcome back.
Thank you, Kent. It's good to be here.
Well, how are things going in the Treasurer's office?
You know, things are going well. It's a crazy time of year for us, of course, but we have a great staff. We've had a lot of changes in the last couple of years in the Treasury. We've gone from over 70 employees over the last several years down to about 45 employees now, so about a 40% reduction in staff. But because of technology and hard work, we're still able to deliver to the people of Oklahoma what they expect from us. We've consolidated our offices. We've gone from 3 locations into 1. At the end of next month, we'll have, for the first time ever, all of the Treasury employees under the same roof inside the Capitol, where we don't pay rent. So a lot of good things are happening, and we have a great team to accomplish some good things for Oklahomans.
Well, before the half hour's up, I want to talk to you about revenue this year and see how we're going and how the budget looks. But really what prompted us to ask you to come back for a third time was an extremely concise and clear news release that your office put forth on the pension issues and the unfunded pensions that our state has inherited from previous budget cycles from most likely the last 20 years. But I thought it really crystallized much of the problem, because we hear so much about unfunded pensions and we're upside down, and we hear states like California will never catch up and things like that, and we knew our problem was bad, but until I actually saw this, I didn't truly understand it. So first of all, talk to us about the pension issue and explain to someone who may not follow numbers this big or government requirements like this, and exactly how the problem got to where it is.
Well, that's a great question, and really it is a problem that developed over years and years and years, decades really, where we were promising benefits that we did not pay for. We were mandating on the 7 different pension funds to pay out more in benefits, but we didn't provide them the revenue to do that, and so they kept eating from their corpus of the fund and got us into the situation that we are in now. So we are in a pretty difficult shape with our pensions. We've made some good progress over the last couple of years. We've reduced the unfunded liabilities from 16 billion down to 10, but we've crept back up to 11 billion. And so it is a major problem that we have to address.
First of all, we're talking about teachers, firefighters, police officers, judges, if people are trying to figure out what type of employment falls into this category. But basically we've made some sort of written promise that we're going to be paying these retirement funds to these people for in many, many years to come. And we don't currently know where that money's going to come from.
Right, and we're working on some major reforms. Of course, you know it's very difficult to enact change at the legislature. We get comfortable with the status quo, and of course those that are involved in the pension systems are rightfully concerned about changes that we would have. But the governor has really been pretty great to work with. She's come out with some big reforms that I'm trying to help her with and trying to sell those to the legislature and get those done. Primarily, we want to do 2 things this session. We're trying to consolidate our pension systems from 7 different boards, commissions, and systems into 1. We spend about $100 million a year just to administer our pension systems. That's not to pay benefits, but just to administer the programs. We spend about $100 million a year. We've got numbers back that show that we could save about $50 million a year by consolidating that and unifying our assumptions and our investment decisions.
Well, we've got a chart here. Why don't you talk us through this? And I think that the key number here is, and I'm not trying to say this particular group is a problem, but the unfunded pension is the problem, and that's the teachers.
Right. Well, teachers is about 55% funded right now, and of course that's our biggest plan. About half of our assets under management are teachers.
So the chart shows 10 million is what the value of the funds intended for the teachers' pensions, but we owe 18 million if things go as we expect.
Right, and as you said, that's upside down. So our unfunded liabilities outweigh our funded liabilities.
Now, let me interject here just for a minute. You're not saying by being labeled as unfunded that the benefits are not being paid if they're due.
No. That's if everybody came in today to get their benefits, we wouldn't have the money to pay them.
Okay, well, I love that chart, but that's probably enough airtime for the chart. Let me kind of break it down into some actual anecdotes. My mother quit teaching when she was 67. She's 92. She's not only in good health, she just bought new carpet for the house. She didn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. Is my mother an example of the issue here with someone who who we didn't necessarily intend to be paying this pension for decades and decades.
Mayor, I can't say that your mother's the problem. But certainly she's been blessed with a long
Well,
life.
that's good, because she's probably a viewer of this show, and so
Yeah, we can edit this out if you have to.
But certainly,
But
you know,
you know, multiply my mother's situation times
yeah.
thousands.
You know, and
literally.
fortunately, we've had great advances in medicine. We are living longer. I mean, boy, look at our Social Security problem. You know, whether it's Social Security or if it's state pension plans like ours or across the nation, everyone's having trouble with their retirement plans, and boy, we could even take that to the private sector.
But I remember, you know, 10 or 20 years ago, I'd be somewhere, maybe be at the golf course, and I'd run into one of my teachers, one of my coaches from maybe middle school, or they're in their 50s and they'd retired. Because the combination of years of service,
Right.
based with their age, had equaled some magic number that I
Right.
think we've adjusted.
We have,
But people back in the 80s and 90s were retiring at very early ages and receiving these pension benefits.
They were, and we have increased. That's another good reform that we put in place a couple of years ago. We have increased the retirement age.
So what is the
changed the
number
formula?
now?
65. There's
For
obviously
all state employees?
For most, and that's why you don't want to give one number for everybody. There's different components where it's less. There is still some rule of 90, which is up from the rule of 80, which is what you're referring to, the formula that would allow earlier retirement. Of course, you have a different with police and fire, those that put their life on the line. They're 20 and out for the most part, and so there's some discussion on whether that should be adjusted. But certainly we have folks that are living a lot longer, and that's a good thing, but we have to adjust our benefit plans accordingly to adjust for that.
Now, when you say we have to, are we talking about the legislature?
Well, it does follow the legislature. Most of the guidance comes from statute, and so changes to the system involve endorsement from the legislature. And so right now, really Governor Fallon is leading the way on pension reforms, but she has to have cooperation from the legislature to pass her ideas into law.
What has been going on in your office or in state government to diminish the amount of unfunded liability, as an example, in the teachers fund? Not picking on them, but as an example.
Well, you know, and we
'Cause
really...
it's gotten better the last
really,
couple of years.
True, and we really can't pick on teachers. They have the worst funded status, but that's not the fault of those that are running the teachers' pension system. They've actually done a very good job. If you look at their last 5 years' average returns, they had higher returns than any of our other systems, and they paid pretty responsible fees to get that. And so they actually have a good management team in place at teachers, and they've done a good job with what they've had to work with. But they haven't been provided enough to cover their benefits, or what we call the ARC, the actuarially required contribution. So we haven't provided them the funds, but the funds that they've been provided, they've been pretty good stewards over with their management team that's in place.
Have the weaker returns of the stock market in the last few years and lower interest rates, has that been a pretty
Oh, absolutely.
big impact?
And if you look at the 5-year return for teachers, for example, it's 4.36%, where their assumed rate of return is over 7%, 7.5%. Or maybe even 8. We have plans on 8 and plans at 7.5. So we're not meeting that, but last year was a huge year and great returns that were reached. In fact, last year I think teachers was #1 in their peer class in the nation in their asset management and their returns. But as soon as we can get rid of 2008, when that rolls off, that's going to get us back on a more normal looking investment return cycle.
So what's the plan toward getting us off this? We need to get to a break, but in 30 seconds or so, what's the game plan here in the next few years?
Well, one, we need to consolidate our systems. We do not need 7 different boards, 7 executive directors, 7 different chief financial officers, and hundreds of investment consultants that we pay $100 million a year for. And 2, we've got to move away from a defined benefit plan towards a 401k style of effort, which could look like defined contribution. It could look like something we call cash balance, which is a little bit of a hybrid between the two. But we have probably promised too rich of benefits for what we are able to pay for.
Ken Miller is the state treasurer. More with Ken when we get back.
Hear that? It's the sound of an industry, 83,000 strong, creating jobs for nearly 350,000. A $52 billion a year being pumped into our economy. It's the sound of Oklahoma's oil and natural gas industry. Our heart for the state and our people. And it beats on and on and on.
When you have something important to communicate, it becomes clear that there's a lot of competition for your audience's attention. So how can your message stand out and actually resonate with your audience? Legal Graphics has the answers. The team at Legal Graphics will work with you to plan, design, and even test your presentation to ensure your message will be heard and remembered. Call Legal Graphics today to schedule an appointment. The readiness is all.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Our guest today is State Treasurer Ken Miller. We talked a little bit about the liabilities going forward with the pension program. What's the governor's stance on this?
You know, the governor has been fantastic. I mean, she really is pushing for a major pension reform. She calls it right-sizing pensions.
Yeah.
And, you know, right-sizing, as we use it in government, is about eliminating waste and duplication. And certainly when you have 7 duplicative boards and staffs, there's some waste and duplication there. And so she's leading the charge to consolidate our pension boards, as we talked about before the break, and consolidate the administration and save a lot of money there. And she is also pushing to move us more towards a defined contribution type of benefit system. And so she's really been fantastic. Of course, she's given me the charge of the things that she wants me to help her with, but I would just give her tons of credit for taking on this issue, which is a challenging issue to take on.
When we went to a break, you were just starting, I think, to discuss some consolidation efforts that might be, excuse me, useful in addressing our problems. Is consolidation going on elsewhere outside of Oklahoma?
Well, certainly we had the benefit of looking at other states and getting best practices for them. And so when we started looking at ways that we can save money, that's exactly what we did. We looked around the country and we found that 36 states have a unified or a centralized board, which is why we're trying to emulate that. We looked at their successes, found 36 states have unified and centralized their decision-making process with their governance over their pensions, and we think that we should too. We see that 24 states have already moved towards a defined contribution type of plan, as states are recognizing throughout the country that currently what we're doing is perhaps not the right way to do things, and we have to make some adjustments to be fair to honor the service of public employees, but also to be fair to the taxpayer as well.
I want to get you a chance to do a little commercial here.
Okay.
I have gotten a hold, thanks to my partner Mick Cornett, of a couple of your economic reports put out by your office. Found it very interesting, very informative, very easy to read, easy to digest, some tough economic concepts for me. Can the average Oklahoma citizen get on your mailing list or get a copy of this Oklahoma economic report?
Oh, we would love that, and that's why we put it out. We believe that a transparent government is the best government, and we make better decisions when those that are our citizens and our voters know what's going on.
And I presume we'll give your website at the closing segment of the show, but I presume getting on your website would enable a citizen to register.
It's front and center. Front and center on there. You can click on the link of the picture of the newsletter, and then you can sign up, and it will be a link will be emailed to you each month. We started that when I got into office, and really our target audience was the legislature, so we could help equip them with the financial tools that they need to go back and talk to their constituents. But our readership has grown and grown, and last month we had 28,000 downloads, and this month we're approaching that number after a week, and so we're real pleased that people find this, as you say, easy to read. We have a great team that helps produce
well, I was
this.
going to say congratulations to you and your staff for putting together such a usable, user-friendly document.
Well, thank you. We're real happy with it and hope it's helpful.
Well, let's talk about this year's budget. How's revenue coming in?
Revenues are coming in well. We are beating the prior year, the same month the prior year most months. It's seesawed up and down for the last few months, a little bit up, a little bit below, but we're still expanding, we're still growing. Growth has moderated somewhat It's not as steep of a positive slope as it was, but things are still heading in a good direction for us. We're still beating the estimate by just a little bit, but we are beating the estimate.
Oil and gas revenue, where's that?
They've stabilized. Of course, natural gas prices have really been, I would say, unnaturally low. They've rebounded 30% over the low of the last several months, and that's certainly being reflected in our numbers. We see some number, I think last month we were 2% below on our gross production, our energy tax collections, compared to 60% below and 40% below the prior year, not too many months back. So we're really glad to see that revenue stream normalize a bit.
Sales tax?
Sales tax was down just a little bit last month, but overall, the past 12 months, it's up. I think that reflects continued consumer confidence and the way that our economy is going. Of course, you look at our economy versus the national economy, and it's a tale of two different economies, right? I mean, we've had unemployment rates about 3 percentage points below the national average for the last couple of years. Our per capita income growth has been going up, median growth going up, our net in-migration is positive. So we've really been doing well compared to most other states and certainly compared to the nation.
Income taxes reflecting that growth?
It is. We see positive income tax collections. Some months it might be a little bit below the month of the same year before, but overall income growth has been very positive, which you would expect when you have unemployment at the rate that we do right now. So things are moving in a very good direction.
Considering what the legislature is looking at this session for a possible income tax cut, what kind of dent, if any, will that make in the revenues if the income tax cut that's being proposed is in fact adopted?
Well, we'll see what the actual cut turns out to be.
Right.
Most of the discussion has been around 1/4 point,
right.
Which on an annualized basis is about $120 million. And so, you know, that's been the way that we've been approaching income tax over the years. When I got into the legislature, the income tax was 7%, and we have slowly brought that down at 1/4% each time to the current rate, which is 5 1/4, and looks like it may hit 5 after this session if all goes well and they're able to reach that agreement, which I think they will.
Let me change the subject and ask you to explain to our viewers the Treasury online checkbook. What's that?
Well, it's something that we just started a few months back. We decided that, again, we think an open, transparent government is a better government. We think when people see what we spend money on, that we spend money better. And so we put our checkbook online. And so everything that we receive in deposits and expenditures goes on to our online checkbook. And anyone can go onto our website when they're signing up for our newsletter and click on the picture of the checkbook. And they can go in and sort by function.
Can they write checks? If
they can't write checks. They can't write checks, but they can see where the checks are going. And certainly by function or by agency or by person, they can see the receipts and the disbursements.
All right. Ken Miller, our guest today on The Verdict. Ken, thanks so much for coming on.
Appreciate you having me.
Ken has a
Really
Ph.D.
good.
and is a college professor, and you can see very much in charge of the growing issues down at the Treasurer's office. But I'm glad revenue's in good shape this year.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Kent and I'll have a final word when we get back.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call child.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
I think for us, once we got started and we began to see the tremendous need just within our state, it really was just a calling for us. The blessings far outweigh any obstacles that we've faced.
You will always be Mom and Dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. We visited with Ken Miller, the state treasurer, and he's got a lot of positive news coming out of his office.
Well, he does indeed. He shared with us off camera a fact that his agency was the only agency that asked the legislature for a budget cut of 5%, and he suggested that request would probably be granted. But his agency has gone from 70-plus employees to 40-plus employees in just 2 years. Consolidation is going on. He's asking for less money, and yet doing the job obviously in an exemplary fashion, and we're really lucky to have him.
I would agree. We also have some website information. You can go and get more information on the Treasurer's office and specifically order that Oklahoma Economic Report that we discussed during the show. That website address is ok.gov/treasurer. That's ok.gov/treasurer. You can go there and get more information on your state government, especially on the financing side. Interesting also, as we started at the beginning of the show on the pension issue, we hear a lot about the 7 categories where the unfunded pensions start to arise, but really the teachers are about half of them, and this is not to claim that teachers are part of the problem. It's partially because there's just more of them. I mean, there's a lot more teachers than there are judges, for instance, and so you would expect the liability to be amplified. And we're just barely 50% covered on the teachers' pension fund. So obviously,
but it's getting
we've
better.
got some work to do there.
It's making positive progress in everything.
Absolutely, they're putting the right steps into place. We also have a website I'd like to draw your attention to. You can go to that website and tell us about a guest you'd like to see on an upcoming edition of The Verdict, or a show topic you'd like to see Kent and I discuss. That website is theverdict.tv. That's theverdict.tv. That's going to do it for this show. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week on The Verdict.